Whiskey man, this whiskey one. Shit's hit the fan, we're overrun. Sending boys in the trucks with the 50 cals. Tell every swinging dick bring extra rounds. Hang in now, boys, we're on our way. Don't send them all to heaven before we get a taste. Whoa, cry havoc, let's slip and goes the room. What you gonna do, my friend, when the devil is at your door? You run and hide, in the end you just got tired. Cause you started a party, we invited guests. Let me introduce you to the shadow of death. The shadow of death. Whiskey man, it's whiskey one. We're all secured and they're on the run. Tell them boys in the trucks with the 50 cals. The next time I see them, I'll buy the rounds. Tell the devil of Ramadi we gon' call them real soon. Next time they wanna party, bring whiskey too. Whoa, cry havoc, let's slip and go to war. What you gonna do, my friend, when the devil is at your door? You run and hide, in the end you just die tired. Cause you started a party, we invited guests. Let me introduce you to the shadow of death. Shadow of death. Your door. You run and hide, in the end you just die tired. Cause you started a party, we invited guests. Let me introduce you to the shadow of death. Shadow of death.
And welcome to a very different kind of True Patriot Outfitters podcast. Folks, you're not going to believe this. Literally 5 minutes, 6 minutes before we were set to go live, our neighborhood, which is a new subdivision here, just lost all power. So we are coming to you right now live from my phone is how we're running this podcast over here. We had to improvise, and that's what we're doing here at this point. So welcome to the podcast here. Tonight's podcast being brought to you by Camo to College and the Romans Warrior Foundation. More of those strategic partnerships. Check out camotocollege.org. Go check out their website. This is a phenomenal nonprofit that helps our servicemen and women transition from active service into civilian life. Go check out the website. Awesome group of people. And we're happy here at Romans Warrior Foundation to be working with them. Romans Warrior Foundation is currently up in North Dakota. I was trying to get a hold of my man, Brian, up there, but I think the festivities are starting to get underway. They're getting everything set up with the wall. We got the Stop 22 tour going on up there. Chris Turner's going to be in town, and I'm not sure who the other artist is, but for sure going to be a ton of fun and just an awesome event going on up there in Dickinson, North Dakota. Man, we had an amazing weekend here over in Red Willow, Nebraska at Red Willow Lake. And Team Mues was a major part of that. Dustin and Jennifer Mues, without them, we wouldn't have been able to get this thing all set up. While we're waiting for them to connect to our podcast here, I want to set kind of the stage here. The bottom line is we have 3 total kayaks, so that's me taking out 2 individuals. Well, in this case here, we had a warrior that wanted to bring his family with him. So I knew we could probably get the kayaks. The question was going to be, how do we get them there? Our trailer is just, I mean, I can get maybe 1 more kayak on there effectively. So we had, quite the issue. The other issue we had is this family was up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and we were trying to make a decision as to, do we want to bring them down here to Colorado to track down some of these bass with the crowded lakes that we have over that holiday weekend. And so we kind of made an audible call on that and realized, no, we don't want to do that. So we picked Red Willow as a place to go. And how I was connected with Dustin and Jennifer was just phenomenal, and a hats off and a huge thank you to Marty Hughes, because when I was in that neck of the woods where I needed to connect with these guys, or with somebody over in that area over there, because we were just having a kayak tournament over there. For the Colorado Kayak Bassmasters, and we knew that Marty, obviously is established very well in Nebraska there. So we called him up. We said, "Hey, Marty, this is what we're trying to do. This is where we're going to go." First name he threw at me was Team Mues. He put their name up, and he said, "I don't know if you're going to catch them in town. They do a lot of stuff nationally, so they're on the move quite a bit. But if you can, this is who you need to go with right here." I said, "Okay." And then he gave me a name of another guy if they weren't available. So I immediately had these 2 names here. Well, lo and behold, the CKB tournament takes place. And a late entry into the CKB Tournament 1 was Dustin and Jennifer. And so I hear their names get brought up because Dustin put on a show there and come in second place in that event. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just too wild. This is the guy's name that was just given to me by Marty Hughes. And there's Jennifer. These are the 2, that I'm supposed to be contacting. So folks, that was literally how it was. I basically then threw my pitch at them, and they were all in right out the gates. So I see them now in the green room here, it looks like. So without further ado, let me see if we can go ahead and bring them in here. And again, I appreciate your patience, folks, as I'm running this thing off my phone. Sorry if it looks like you're looking right up my nostrils here. I'm trying to do the best I can with this camera placement. But let's get these guys in here. Let's see. Add to stream. What's happening, guys?
Hello,
Hey.
Mr. Campbell. How you doing?
Gee whiz, long time no see.
Tell you what, it's been a minute. I'm hoping we're not getting any echoes firing off here, because my earbuds, I was not prepared to be running a podcast live off my phone. And my earbuds are dead for sure. But
We
I
don't
do
have
have some
ours in
sound.
either, so if we can't hear you, we'll be like, "What'd you say?" We
Right.
couldn't get ours
Right.
connected either. So
Awesome. So yeah, literally, if you saw the intro there, like 10 minutes before I sent you, Dustin, I sent you a text immediately. Literally, my entire house just shut down on me. So the light you see I'm using is from the window. I'm trying to position myself in my office here, so I've got a little bit of light, so I'm not like a troll over here. But So anyway, yeah, I just gave folks the story of how it came to be, how I was given your name, how, Marty Hughes, OG of our sport, connected us. I threw a pitch at you. You guys were all in right out the gates, and the rest is history, so to speak. But very recent history. If power comes back, I wanted to show these amazing pictures that you guys took for this weekend.
We
Man,
actually even have more because we edited the photos, and my daughter actually, she's like, Mom, let me edit those photos. She's like, what's the guy's name? Let me call this Gene guy, see if it's, she has a link for you. Dustin's going to slip it to you right now, and I want you to look what she did with these photos, Gene. It is incredible. You have to remember, Dalen's just 17, so she's a singer, and she's got art talent, and we hope she makes us lots of money. No?
She sent a link earlier today for me of a bunch of those photos.
Yep,
that she put some work on. Yeah, so I took a look at those. I thanked her, immensely. That was awesome. Those photos that you can really.
She did a good job.
She brought some artistry to some of those there, which is pretty awesome.
She did.
Yeah. She started her own little photography site. It's called Arrowhead Images, and she's kind of goes out and her friends and other people. She's gone and shot pictures for weddings and things like that, or engagement photos for people, senior photos, and she just has a knack for that artistic eye that she can go out and see stuff.
She was actually paying attention when I was doing all that. She could run my job like with her hands tied behind her back, but sounds like she's got bigger plans than what we got. So
that's right. That is super cool, man. That is awesome to see, the teenage, young adults engaging, different things and keeping themselves busy. I've always said this: a bored teen is a dangerous teen. Keep them busy, keep them involved in stuff, and man, they're light years ahead of where we were. At 17, we're not even going to talk about what I was doing at 17.
Same here.
So look, let's go ahead and just kind of, the first thing before we start getting into this weekend here, which was just off the chain. I wanted to finally, once and for all, let's get into you guys. Let's talk about you guys. I've coined the title for you that you are absolutely a fishing power couple out there. There's not many husband wife combination tournament anglers, but more so at a professional level where this is what you folks do. This and the marketing that comes with our sport. This is all you guys do, man. You're all in for this thing. The learning your history was just so freaking cool. You guys, born and raised Nebraska, literally like 10, 11 miles from each other.
Yep.
And when did you guys meet?
Well, she would have been 14, I would have been 15 back in high school, and went with my buddy, went to town, and of course I lived in a smaller town, so you had to go to the bigger town.
I lived in the bigger town.
The big city of McCook, Nebraska.
Right.
But went there, and the first time I met her was at her house, and things just kind of kicked off from there.
That's awesome.
Actually, I was kind of rude to them. Well, my friend stopped by. My good friend Sarah was actually Bo's cousin. And so they stopped by, and Dustin came in, and he was such a thug. Like, he was dressed like I swear I told him a story, and he doesn't believe me, but he had like a white, like the old white beaters, the old tank tops they used to wear. It was summer. It was late September.
When I was trying to find myself.
Yeah, I know he had boxers. He's kind of sagging his pants. I promise I remember. And so when he came, I said something funny to him. I've always been like a really sassy, fireball.
She's never seen me before, and she wasn't expecting to see me.
Brought this guy, and I'm like, well, who the heck are you?
So I'm like, I told her, well, my name's Dustin Mues. Pleased to meet you.
Yeah.
I just fired right back with the smart comment.
Like, we were kind of the ornery group. I mean, we were kind of, I was friends with everybody. We were just, I was actually supposed to be with his buddy Travis, and Travis was no offense, but he was like a shorter, smaller guy. And so I don't know. By the end of the night, I like Dustin. I guess better.
Well, yeah, Jen, I've seen, you're quite the recluse. I mean, because we've been out for dinner. we've been to a few places in McCook, and good night. It's like everybody along there. Hey, Jen, how's it going? Yeah,
We ran away and went fishing, so people don't get to see us very often. And then when we bring our friends to town, they're so excited to see us, and we're so excited to share you with everybody that we're we've already told everybody and their neighbors, so it's already spread like hot fire that you're gonna be here. So
that's
we just
awesome.
got lucky and saw. I did find out that it was Roger and Lisa's anniversary, so there's no wonder she and him were all riled up. They have a bunch of girls and a bunch of grandkids, so I thought that was great. I felt famous in there for a second.
So I got to share this because it's worthwhile. We run into some friends of Dustin and Jennifer's there, and these folks, they have this dog that is a different breed. The breed of this dog is known as a hanging tree. And then this hanging tree dog apparently was met one evening and coerced by this Dotson wiener dog. So the next thing you know, they're telling us about their hanging wiener dog that they have. And oh my goodness, this lady's voice was carrying throughout the place, and it just had everybody in tears.
Oh man, we were laughing so hard, and they're such good people that everybody knew that it was their anniversary. Apparently, except for Dustin and I, because we were hanging out with you guys that day. I didn't know until the following day that it was Roger and Lisa's anniversary. So I was like, oh man, we just missed out on a good time. Yeah, they're great people. We definitely, the hanging wiener was, I would say the whole restaurant knew what a hanging wiener was by the time we left.
And it was not what they saw.
Yeah, and he had his other video of his other dog that he was taking out. Did you see that one? Where they're driving in the gator and it was reaching out and grabbing onto the
marijuana,
the ditchweed.
The ditchweed. The dog was eating, like biting.
Yeah, it's like, you got to be kidding me. What
Roger's
kind of animals
like,
do you
I
have
got
out
a hanging wiener and this dog's eating weed. He's like, I mean, we got to some of the funniest conversations just trying to get to dinner. I mean, welcome to Nebraska. They welcomed you guys with a big, fuzzy, warm, loud welcome.
It absolutely was. And that restaurant that you turned us on to, so glad we went there. Hats off to the Loop. We love the Loop. Love going there when it's just a bunch of anglers going. It's it's an awesome brewery, but this was a much more fitting for a family. Wanting to sit down and have a meal and such in there. That was super cool.
I was so glad I talked you into it. I was like, wow. I'm like, you know what? You're really, really close. The people don't have to go through town if they wanted to stop there. Prices are similar. Come here, and we actually know the guy. He's a big supporter of our fishing and veterans. I mean, he gave us a cool welcome. Even at the end, I was so happy that we were there.
Absolutely, and I want to come back to that for sure. But let's stick on you guys here. I want to keep going with this. So you guys meet in high school. You date. You get married right out of high school, or did you go off and do some stuff in life together first, or how did that unfold?
I went to college.
Yeah, she was in college, and I just got a job right out of high school. I just worked at Walmart, worked my way up to be a department manager of sporting goods.
He loved it because he was sporting goods. So
I got all the cheap clearance stuff. I mean, I didn't have a paycheck. I donated my paycheck back for fishing stuff and hunting stuff. That's all it ever went.
We had guns, we had lures, but we never had money.
But we did that, and she went to college, and then we decided, you know what? If we're going to start a family, we got to have a house. So we decided to buy a house, and I didn't want the bigger city living because I was a farm kid. No, I wasn't used to the big city, and I'm like, we'll just go smaller town. The kids will get a better education.
I wanted kids right away. We loved children. I think we were too young, but we had been together for so long. We were ready to have kids. We knew that we loved each other, but instead of staying in the dorm, I took the money and put a down payment on a home. And we actually were really close to paying our hats off because now we're in our 40s and we have a few house payments left, and we finally paid off our home. So we've lived here for about 22 or 23 years.
Almost 23 years. So
that is such a rarity in today's world. That is so cool that you guys are are knocking on that of having that title completely to your, to yourself. I'm sure that's going to certainly help the cause for, when that
Heck
occurs.
yeah.
Yes.
So were you guys, and you guys were clearly, into fishing back then, but back then, the kayak bassing wasn't there. I mean,
No.
it wasn't where it's at now and where it's going. So
Right.
was it more, were you doing kayak stuff, way back then, or
we started from shore like most everybody does. You're the bank
Actually,
fisherman.
we actually used to eat bass, so we don't tell anybody that. But when we were younger, I mean, we were taught how to cook them and how to eat them by some families that we had met, and we honestly were eating. Man, we probably
There's some fish I wish I didn't eat.
me too. We probably eat a couple of championships for sure. In large bass, like we would have never thought years later that we were trying to get them on a board and measure every inch. I'm sure we hit up. I've seen pictures where I hate to even admit it, but we ate them just like you normally would. Like they're like, okay, you can eat 20-inch bass. Oh, we ate them. We shared them. We scored them. We took them off, and shoot, we ate a lot of bass. But we probably could have done 10 KBS with all first place with all those fish, but we ate them, so they're gone. They gone. So
no, we did that. We fished from the bank, and then we decided, all right, let's get a pedal boat, because that was the ongoing thing. Because her cousin had one, he used to go out by himself, and he'd pedal himself all around, and he'd go out and catch fish. I'm like, let's get something like that. It'd be something nice. We can get out on the water and enjoy our time. And then we had our kids, and then the kids started growing up, and they stared getting bigger, and the boat starts getting lower in the water.
We were low riders.
It was pretty bad. And her brother, Dylan, said, why don't you get kayaks? Because you can fish out of a kayak. And we're like, okay. And she decided for Father's Day to get a couple of kayaks. We found them on sale. They were the old sit inside Sun Dolphins that, are really cheap. It was buy one, get one free, basically.
I miss that boat. Like you could pick it up over your shoulder and carry it. I don't know what the heck I was thinking now, but that thing we could take everywhere. But it killed your body and your back. Oh my gosh!
It was like sitting in a hot box because the sun would shine and you'd have 100 and something degree temperatures in the foot of it.
We were chopping ice on the top because we were diehards. Dustin would chop the ice and I'd go behind. I can't believe we didn't die. I don't know how we made it, but we went on. I mean. And then we realized once we would put the kids in them, and we would take the paddle boat, and we're like, see ya, as soon as we all split apart, there was something like magical that happened, and the fishing just it went from, you could get to places in our kayaks that we could not shore fish, and we were finally at Clark, and it gave us a time to really just get outside and really enjoy fishing by yourself. I mean, I hate to say that, but we've been all together all of our lives for so long that it's kind of nice.
Together, but you just kind of go on your own venture, and then it turned into the competition.
Yeah,
She wanted to catch more fish, bigger fish, and vice versa. Who's going to be the champ for the day? And it just went on from there. And then some companies started picking us up.
Our kids whooped us every day.
Oh,
they could fish so much better than we. We would just Dustin and I just look at each other. I'm like, man. There's one less bass that we get to add on the board. They just got a 20-inch bass.
Yep.
The kids, they smoked us. They would get to not paying attention, and the fish would just react. I mean, I'm sure that was a presentation they've never seen in their life. So my kids are like, "What are you doing?" Blah blah blah. And producers are like, "I'll go one." And then they got really good. They started to get. I remember a time where we fished a place for so many days in a row with the kids. They loved to fish. This place was loaded. Bass, crappie, like you
everything was master angler size fish.
All were so sore. Our hands had bassed them so bad that Dalen caught like almost a 21-inch bass. She bawled the entire time. She had bassed them so bad it burnt. How it gets real. She had it so bad because she had caught so many fish all day. A little tiny girl, and in her pictures she's got giant tears because her bass thumb is so bad it's burning when she's trying to hold this big bass. I'm like, I promise, just one picture and you can let it go and it's fine. I mean, she was bawling her eyeballs out because we'd had such bad bass thumb. It's so bad. Anything got in it. The kids are bawling because they had bass thumb and they get salt in their bass thumbs. I'm like, just because you catch too many fish, kids. I mean, we had lots of fun with our kids. We raised them out there. We'd fish until they couldn't handle the cold or the heat pretty much. And then we'd have to
That's-
kind of call it quits. But
So where did you cross paths with Marty Hughes? How did that friendship come to be?
Well, we were out fishing at our other lake at Swanson Reservoir, and we were in our kayaks. I think it was the first or second time we've actually been out in them. And here comes another kayak. I'm like, oh wow, another guy kayak fishing. This
it
is
was
kind of
rarity
cool.
to see it, right?
Yeah.
We were like, woo, there's one more kayak.
Yeah, and he comes paddling up, and he's like, he introduced himself and told him his name and everything, and he saw the stringer of fish I had hanging off the side of my
Oh man,
kayak.
that
I had
was
white
slanging that
bass,
day.
largemouth bass, and Marty's like, by any chance, would you mind telling me what you're catching them on? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just catching them on this spinnerbait, and I showed him everything, and next thing you know, he's like, all right, thanks, and then he went off and he started catching fish. So I mean,
Nobody believed that we were on the dam and just fishing these dollar spinner baits from Walmart, like fishing our asses off.
Yep.
Just we'd have guys come over and he's like, we'd lay out our fish and we'd show all these fish and we were excited about all these fish that we caught. And they're like, we spent, 120,000 on a boat and you guys are out here in plastic boats and hammering the fish and we didn't catch a damn thing today. And I was like, I'm sorry. I think you're not in the shallows. I don't know. But once we
That's
started
awesome.
really catching the fish, we started to realize that we kind of had a talent, like we're just good at it. It was something we enjoyed. We could make time for it. Our kids, what the heck else? I live in a town of 300. So what else are we really going to do?
Sure. And about that time, more than likely, that's kind of when KBF was really starting to make a dent out there. Hoover had really started to make a big
We actually went to
push
the first year of it. We were the first people at KBF. We took our kids to the very first one. They actually met Gene Jensen, the fluke master, in person. They loved on him. He loved my kids. Gene has a bunch of kids, so he automatically loved my children right away. They met Chad Hoover. They loved Gene. Gene and Chad both had children, so they welcomed us. They're like, wow, a family come all the way to compete. And we actually took our kids with us. They were in the little two tiny Sun Dolphins, and we had upgraded to.
at that time it was Jackson kayaks is what we were in.
Yeah, I think we'd upgraded to a real kayak finally. But we let our kids. Heck, I didn't tell them when we were at Lake Fork that there were alligators because I knew they wouldn't get in the water until we left. So I just told them, I wouldn't be keeping your hands in the water, pay attention. I didn't want to tell them that there was 12 footers there, but as soon as I did, Dalen's like, oh man, they didn't even attempt to go near the water after I told them that they had alligators there. But I know we've had them in some fun.
I don't blame her one bit.
We've had
I'm
them
not
in
a
some
fan of
funny
them getting
predicaments
either.
for sure.
Yeah, and Marty was the one that first got us into tournament kayak fishing. He's
He
like,
told us there was another side to
he's
it.
like, you guys, you catch enough fish. He's like, you do really good at getting in tournaments. And he kind of gave us a little headway on some tournaments to enter. And I'm like, all right, I'll try this. And this is before catch boards and, all that came out. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to measure my fish? I'm out there with a stick and a tape measure and putting it together, making sure that you could see it in the picture,
Marty
it's your
used to let us
identifier.
use all kinds of stuff to measure fish. He was pretty, I remember using a tape measure at one time. We were clear back in the day where we had such a large catfish that we brought our tape measure because we didn't know how to measure this damn catfish for Marty's multi-species tournament. He had us learning to fish. He held multi-species tournament, which really made us really good anglers. So we'd have to go out and specifically seek out different species of fish. And that honestly, that caused us to really buckle down. We had to go to different lakes to go find red ear dog or those red ear sunfish. He even got
bonus
it down.
Points for different species. He had to catch 3 bass.
That's how we got all of our
catfish.
paddles, some of our life vests, stuff like that.
Right.
By winning those tournaments.
And through this piece here, I assume this is when were you establishing a social media presence at that time? Was it starting to pick up at that point?
Well, and Dustin and I talked about this earlier. I had started to try to build our foundation on Twitter first because Twitter was really hopping back then. It was pretty and it took me a long time. It's hard to use. I remember starting the account 10 times and just not getting the platform. It's kind of one of the harder platforms. You're like, what the heck are you supposed to do? Once I finally understood the platform, I grew it to like 12,000 people, and they were all anglers. Like, I made sure that I really kept it angler to angler. People would kind of get rude. They're like, if you're not a fisherman, she don't follow you. Well, it was kind of true, because I really wanted that that camaraderie. I wanted it to all be fishing related, not something else, not related to anything else. My company isn't just fishing related. And I'd already started to reach out, ask people, and some people wingmanned me and trying to, showed me kind of what sponsorship and stuff were, but they were really almost standoffish, like, there's no room for you, like, there's nothing for you, or it's so saturated, you're never really going to do that well. I was kind of that guy that said, watch me, I will do this. And I just kept with it. I think I tried to get him to do it a little bit more, and he wasn't really interested. And he was like, "Oh, I don't even like doing it at first."
The whole Twitter thing, I was like, "This thing's."
You're like, "No, but I'm like,
with Facebook, and back in the day, what was the other one? It wasn't Facebook. It was oh shoot, I can't remember the other platform's name now. Some share space or something like that everybody had. MySpace.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the beginning of sharing your social media stuff.
We were in the era that we kind of grew up with all the social media, so we kind of just fell in line with that. Except for they were changing a lot of stuff, and I don't know. I messed with it, and I'm I would get into the art part of it, and I really enjoyed the photography of it, and eventually I started to branch out. I found some companies that we really liked, and eventually we actually started getting paid. He got sponsored. I started to promote him instead. So I would grow his social media, his presence. I could tell that I had more of a following than he did, but he was a better fisherman than I was. Like, we couldn't afford to do it, both of us to do it. It's expensive. Like, it is so expensive. But eventually I got to where I was making some money at it. He's starting to get some dollar bills. So he started to turn that around into like some ideas, like this is kind of going to work. There's been a lot of changes through companies. I mean, some come, some go, some gave discounts, but then I started to really give back to them. So I would run rod companies, hook companies, and then I started getting into I couldn't afford it. So I started to get into I just started getting nosy. I started to use their product, like their product, talk to people about, they would start to notice me, and I would reach out and I'd be like, how do I work for you? How is it that I get into it? I've always been kind of a go-getter. So I just went for it. I mean, what else would they tell me other than no, right? So once I started to do that, and I could tell Dustin really wasn't interested in being the guy that was behind the keyboard to grow the social media, but he was a very good angler. He was handsome. His presence was good. He did everything that we wanted. But eventually I came to a point when I was starting to work harder. I wanted to fish too. And so
Dustin, you were handsome.
Yeah, I was. Not more.
Yes.
I
mean, if he would have actually done as much work and effort as I did the very first 2 times, he would be exact. But also I'm a chick, and it really is. I work in a men's industry. I mean, I'm highly more noticeable than he is, and it's a fact. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but it's definitely a fact where I got a little bit more attention, especially where I started to catch big fish, and I knew I was always catching it. We just couldn't afford to fish the tournaments because it was twice the money. So once I started realizing I could win, we just started to compete more competitively.
And the nice thing, Jennifer, though, about you that immediately got my respect on the piece is that you're an angler. There's no question about it. You can tell when you talk with you, you're an angler. The same can't be said around the fishing industry. There's very few of you guys out there. You, Christine Fisher, and there's a couple other gals that compete on there that are actually truly dedicated to the craft and dedicated to tournament angling.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the piece. Unfortunately, social media is what it is. And so, yeah, when I had a chance to meet you guys and speak with both of you, that's when I was like, look, this is a pair of tournament anglers out here kicking butt. And yeah, this is super, super cool to see, because it's not often that you come across, that out there. Clay and Sandy, they don't go after, I mean, I would say, in their realm with their, with the brands that they've dealt with, they've done a fantastic job with the marketing piece. But as far as the national reach and so forth, I think you guys might be a little bit more national, on that side. But Clay and Sandy are also another pair of anglers, and they're a husband and wife. And so it's
they are. We've enjoyed them. They I didn't know anybody from Colorado, and I told them that they looked old and safe. I'm like, so we decided that we would definitely be friends. Colorado and Nebraska. Let's face it, we've always had like this a little bit of a headbutting that's gone on. Simply, I don't even know what it's about. It's always been that way. It's the same for Colorado or for Nebraska and Kansas. I mean, we're constantly talking about how Kansas is, lesser people than the Nebraska people. No, I'm kidding. No, we always tease, but there's always been this fun. Yeah, there's always been this fun, so we tease. Poor Sandy. Sandy did have a funny story. You'll have to ask Sandy about Sheriff Bob.
Will do.
Sheriff Bob, Sandy could not hear that day. As soon as the Colorado fishing crew shows up, the game and parks is all over you guys. Like
that was on day 2 of the tournament at the Red Willow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody got checked. We never get checked until we're with y'all. Okay. We didn't get checked that day somehow.
Yeah, day 1, there wasn't anybody.
But Sandy did. And Sandy couldn't hear good because she had her motor on. She had things going. It was kind of windy that second day. And Sandy swore that the guy said his name was Sheriff Bob.
He's like, "Ma'am, my name's not Sheriff Bob."
Nice.
Your license.
That is awesome.
Sheriff Bob. She's like, Jen, I had no idea his name really wasn't Sheriff Bob.
What was the sheriff doing out at the lake?
That's what she said, but she's like, I was sure that's what he said. I said, well, what did he look like? She's like, well, he was handsome and he was really fit, but I swore he said his name was Sheriff Bob. I don't even know who it was, but I never laughed so hard for sure. Yeah.
That's
so you'll
awesome.
have to ask Sandy about Sheriff Bob and her interaction with Sheriff Bob.
We've been threatening to get these guys on the podcast. They're really busy folks, so it's tough to try to track them down in one location. And
we're gonna hold him down and get Sandy and Clay on here. That's funny stuff.
Yeah, they would.
She can tell the Sheriff Bob her story herself.
they've got some good stories for sure. They've been doing this a lot of years, and so it's super cool. So you guys get into this stuff, and now talk to me about some of the tournament directing stuff that you guys are doing on the West Coast. How did that come about, and what is that you guys are doing out there?
Well, you want to take that one up?
So I have for several years ran the social media and I'm the social media director out at Wild West Bass Trail out of California, and I have been working with them for like I said, several years, maybe 7. I can't really remember how long it's been, but one day, I finally just asked. They asked us if Dustin and I somehow, or if I wanted to come to one of the tournaments, or if I don't know how I ended up in getting into it, but
it was Western Bass Shootout, and pretty much
you guys, I've been making all these logos, making all these posts, and they offered for Dustin and I to actually go and fly us out there, and we took them up on their offer, and we actually had the best time of our lives. Dustin was doing the tournament direct, he put the trailer together. We have a full mobile, like it's a big deal. It is the biggest.
It's a mobile stage basically, and everybody walks across and does the weigh-ins just like you would see with like Bassmaster or anything
it's
like
very
that.
well put together.
Show us your fish, and they got the pictures. Jen's taking pictures and all that.
I did the media part of it. We were hired to.
Is big. That is a major West Coast. And when you consider how much Bass and FLW was not showing any love for the West Coast anglers, Wild West and the Apex, that whole thing just blew up because it's at least some love out there from some organization.
Well, and they provided the biggest platform for these anglers out west and really gave a good show. We were almost more of a media company, and people were really into it. We had a different way. We were integrating Tourney X in there. So that these guys were actually measuring fish on a board. It kind of seemed weird, but these guys really liked the format. It was a hybrid format. And once we got down there and once we kind of got the back seat, I've always worked for them, but I'd never really seen what a back scenes of the tournament part of it. We absolutely loved it. They loved us. We loved them. Like, just like we had so much fun with you and this family that we went with. We're constantly like that. Like, once we get you, we're like, let's do it more and more and more. Like, that was so much fun. We not only, I mean, we always believe, and I told, even when I told Jason, the veteran that we were with this weekend, I said, I always feel like the people we run into, we always meet by fate. I feel like there's no accidents in life. I feel like this is where we were supposed to meet. I'm certain that Gene, Dustin, and I, and the family that we went with, we will always share a really common bond and a friendship, and we will never forget the time that we spent here on the lake. That was a really magical thing. That was so fulfilling and mentally rewarding for me. And I think actually Dustin and I needed it more maybe than Jason did. However crazy that sounds.
You know, it's
so we can't dismiss that. We knew that this opportunity was really special to us, and
it was showing somebody what our love is, like what we love to do and what our lifestyle is, and introducing it to it and seeing their reaction play out. I mean, the fishing wasn't the greatest, but the quality time spent in the water.
People had so many smiles. Their children, you could tell that there was a togetherness and a sense of camaraderie and fulfillment. Like, I personally fished with Jason by myself quite a bit. I'm kind of fireball. He liked my personality. I liked his. We joked around a lot. I mean, I literally tied lures on for him. I'm like, come on, you got to do this by yourself, big man. You know, we joked around a lot. You know, he knew what he was doing. I was just giving a hard time. I loved that his children like helped out. They snapped to it. Like, it was just an all around really, it was a much needed time. You know, as far as, you know, therapy or however it may have been, it honestly, for me personally, was so mentally fulfilling to watch behind the lens of that camera. I honestly didn't even do a really great job with the photos because Dustin, once he had them, I was having a good time fishing and showing them and teaching them the things that, you know, I knew that I've taken advantage all these years, thinking it's something that, you know, I know it's not really a big deal when these people are like, man, that's awesome. And, you know, and I happened to catch a monster bass. Well, I mean, it was a big bass. It was a good one. And I have never seen, between Jason and Noah, the look on their face, like they thought I was absolutely like Bill Dance had just walked in there, caught the biggest bass, and they're like, oh my gosh, like they have not seen a big bass. I mean, they live in Wyoming, right? They didn't really have a lot of fisheries there for bass, giant class bass like that. I think that me screaming and hollering, they're just looking at me like that lady is crazy, but they absolutely cheering me on. I gave them the same lures, and 5 minutes later, they're catching bass. Not huge ones, but they finally catch some bass. So, you
know, and what you had an opportunity to see firsthand out there, what we all experience, and after doing a few of these now, it happens every time I go out, when we can take the tournament lenses off and we go out knowing that we're sharing this passion of something that we love with some folks that have not had this opportunity before. We immediately start to have this hyper focus on the small details that we would otherwise pass by and not even think about. And then you start seeing it through their eyes. And when you do what you guys did and what I try to do each time you go out, which is I dedicate myself on that day to making sure they have the experience. And
it was so good.
You guys did it with, you know, it was evident from literally the moment we started with them all the way through. And yeah,
our 4-hour tournament day turned into 10 hours and sunburnt knees for that family.
You know, and you can't help but take the benefits from doing, you know, what we do. And I guarantee you from this point on, every time you get on the water, it's going to feel slightly different now, and it's going to just be a little bit more to you. You know, even on the tough days, it's like meh. It's still better than not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you can start to find. For me, it was I needed a bigger purpose other than competition and chasing fish and cashing checks. I needed something bigger because those don't fill your soul.
Just
That
had
doesn't
purpose
do.
at this point. There was
Yeah.
definitely just purpose.
Yeah. And of course, you made mention to this, Jen, earlier, that when you have a family like that, I mean, oh my God, this family was absolutely amazing.
They were.
They were awesome.
Those boys, the moment we got there, yes sirs and no sirs.
They were so good.
And I'm like, okay, first off, you don't have to do the sir thing. You can just call me Gene. We'll establish that right out the gates.
Or
I'm your
Glenn.
buddy,
It's
you know.
Glenn, right? Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn. Yeah, he
Hey,
called me
Glenn.
Glenn. You called me Glenn. Why not? I'll go by
And
whatever.
chicken.
No, it's
Yeah.
Big Chicken. We can't get it
Big
confused.
chicken, that's right.
I did find your hat online last night, so it's coming, son. It's coming.
Nice. But yeah, that whole piece there, Kale and Noah were just amazing. Just such, and seeing the way they both took to this and were enjoying themselves. When a 19-year-old young man is out there fishing and says, I just love the fact that we're out here on the water. I mean,
did.
you're doing something right. It's like, holy Moses. I would not have been that way when I was 19. I
We
promise
were
you.
all slightly worried that everybody wasn't just hammering the fish because we wanted so badly to go. They did not have a care in the world. They
No.
said, she told me, she said, I know my husband really wants me to like fish and catch them. She's like, I'm really happy just paddling around right here. We didn't make her fish. She fished a few times. She did her thing. She absolutely enjoyed just watching and being there in such serenity for her. I couldn't. She almost hung back so she could really watch it all. I saw you talking to her and spending time with her, and really kind of putting your time in with Melinda. Melinda was special. You could tell that she trusted us. She was neither one of Melinda. Those people weren't like accustomed to sitting in kayaks at first. I mean, these people trusted us with, and I felt like we all gave them a sense of, hey, you get out there, you try it, and when you're comfortable, we'll go. If you want to try things, I felt like they did so good. And she was like, we're buying kayaks. Like she was completely.
I was going to say, the irony piece is the first person to say, I think we need kayaks was her.
The mother.
She was the first one. Mom was the first one to chime in and go, yep, I have a feeling we're going to be getting some kayaks in our future here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and Jason and the gentleman, he was like, no, we are definitely doing this. And we're like, yes.
Well, and
that just meant that one time we can go back and have some fun with them and they'll have kayaks too.
I was going to say, kayak manufacturers, pay attention to this. This is not something we set out to do, but it's a byproduct of the experience. But
it is.
More importantly, what we've always said is we want to give them the bug that we have, which is that addiction to going out to go fishing, always thinking about that next fish, that next cast, and being able to shut down everything outside and just focus on the water for a while. Success right there, because all of them were 100%. Absolutely in, especially when you consider how tough the fishing was. You guys started to get on them later in the day. You guys, Jen was wailing on them, and I started it. I'm like, hey, Jen, did you catch that one?
We didn't even see it. You lying.
She had one get off, and I was like, that doesn't count. No, you don't have anything. So then
I knew once
like,
I lost that big one that got off, I was like, those fish are biting that lure. I knew they would. I missed several. If I could have gotten you that lure, you probably would have caught one.
Oh, I had them. I just wasn't throwing it. It's like, yeah, well, we're going to stay stubborn and old, and I'm going to keep throwing what I want to throw. But, I started. I was like, talking smack. Jen goes out, puts a couple on the board.
Caught fish. Everybody ended up, other than, I don't believe the wife caught fish, but everybody, or maybe one of the kids, everybody caught fish. Everybody.
Kale hooked into 2 fish, but one of them broke him off, and I think he had a big old flathead on because he was trolling with a chatterbait, and he said he felt something. He thought he was snagged. He says then it started pulling back, and I'm like, well, you had a fish. And he's like, well, I don't know what happened. It broke my line. So it was either going to be a big flathead that snapped some braid, or it was a pike or a muskie, a bigger muskie.
And it was simple things. Like they were certain they could not run a bait caster, and we had some pretty good equipment. I let them use mine. Those kids were throwing a bait caster like they had their whole lives. So
Well, just like whenever I tried giving Kale my rod, I'm like, all right, this is what I'm catching fish on. Take this rod, use it, tell me what you like, see if you can catch a fish.
Yeah.
And he just told me, he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm just good. Just sitting here. He's like, I'm good, just pedaling
He was
around
such a good
and
kid.
watching and just relaxing. He's like, I don't get to do this very often.
he did.
And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yep. He's like, I just rather just sit back and relax. I'm like,
They had a
okay.
good time. I honestly was more thrilled. I had a better time because they truly enjoyed themselves. We didn't even have to try. We could float around out there with him and talk to him, make sure everybody was safe and enjoy ourselves. And it really, we almost didn't want to go home. Like we stayed out there way too long, but it was a damn good time.
Well, and it was evident. One of the things that Melinda said that really struck close to home, I knew the three of us had done our job, is when I told her, I was like, yeah, we met like 2 weeks ago and we put this all together. These guys are go-getters and they believe in serving those that serve. And she's like, hold on, you guys have only known each other for 2 weeks? I was like, yeah.
That's what she told me. She's like, I was thrilling. She didn't know Gene. I'm like, no, we just met Gene.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? It's the common bond of anglers out there. I was like, and when we realized we all had kind of the same inner core of what we wanted to do, with this thing, I was like, it just, the PC parts all came together. We all had a little piece of the puzzle. We put it together. But I got to tell you, by the time we got to dinner, I felt so freaking comfortable with them that I felt like I had known them my whole life too.
Me too.
I mean,
Yes.
The whole family was just, so down to earth. And yeah, it just felt like everybody was just.
They teased us back, Gene. Like they were throwing it right back. Like the teasing the thing. Like I promise you, like you all are my really good friends. Like I genuinely enjoyed myself. I'm like, Dustin, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I really had a good time. Like I loved all of those people. I'm like,
I wish we could have met their other.
I know we were missing one boy. Their boy Wyatt wasn't able to come because he had to work and a new job. But we seriously, we're 4 hours apart. All of us can have a do-over and meet these people. I never want to give anybody up. I'm like, that was so fun. Let's do it 1 more or 10 more times. Okay. I didn't want to give that up. I felt that was, if we didn't help him, we certainly earned a lifelong, between him and his family and his children, we earned like lifetime friendships with these people that I'm not willing to let go of. That for me is so fulfilling. Like I can't get over the feeling that I got from that.
By design, we purposely, by we, I mean Brian Romans and my wife and I, when we and his wife Shannon, when we were talking about how we wanted to do this, we purposely reduced down the number of kayaks. I was telling you, we were trying to help Heroes on the Water get going in Colorado, which didn't come to fruition. And those are, 10 kayaks basically is kind of their standard outrun that they do at these events, which is awesome. It does absolutely. But for us, and after speaking to a few recreational therapists and learning more about it, we wanted to purposely make this a little more intimate. We wanted to get that span of control down and make it so that we can go one-on-one. So the fact that we had 4 people out there and 3 of us, that was so absolutely perfect because we could go one-on-one. We had, I remember one time during the day, Melinda was back. I was around her and I had set her up on a wacky rig because it kind of suited her fishing style a little better. Dustin, you were close by in the trees looking for crappie.
We tried anything. I'm like, Dustin, go find us some crappie.
Yeah. I noticed that their oldest, Kale, was on the other side of the lake by himself. So I asked Dustin, are you good with her? Because I want to run over there and just make sure I stay in contact with him. And he's like, yeah, I got her, man, go. And so I took off. And so just that teamwork ability of making sure we were always around them. But that whole piece has been by design to make sure that we do stay, close by. The ultimate goal with the True Patriot Outfitters is that we create this network of these friends that we make and that we meet. And so that every year, if we have the funding, get in place every year, I want to make sure that we're doing this with these returning, and doing it once a year. That's the ultimate goal. Oh, there we go.
Okay, hold on. We got a sound issue real quick. I think someone
Gotcha.
tried to call me, so it's my fault. Like it took off the sound altogether. Can you hear us, Gene?
Yeah, I've got you.
Mike. Yep. Let me see what happens here.
It's a night of
I
technical
might
issues.
have to. I don't know. I'm getting a phone call at the same time, and I don't know how to quite ignore it because I don't typically use my phone. But
Don't use my phone for a phone.
I think that worked. But
Well, they're getting that squared away, folks. As you can tell, we had just an amazing experience.
You can hear us, Gene, but we can't hear you.
Okay.
Try.
Well, how do I tell them that? Disconnect, reconnect. Hang up, pick back up. I'm doing hand signals here, you know. Telling them to steal third, live even. That's what's even off.
Sound.
We did. Doggone it. I don't know how to.
See if we have paper here. I could actually write it for them.
Hmm.
Pardon me, folks. There they go. Anyway, we had such an amazing event there with the Mues and with the Crazer family. It was it's exactly what we set out to do. It's what the mission is from day one, and that type of piece. What we're trying to do with the TPO is make sure that each year we can reconnect with each one of these participants and go back out and do it again. And as you can tell, over the course of time, that's going to pick up quite a bit if we're doing our job correctly there. So it's going to require the funding. It's going to require resources. You know, the hotels, in this case here, the meals, the park passes, all these type of things, they add up. And we want to make sure that it doesn't cost our vets and their families a single dime. You know, so it's very important that we find, you know, those organizations and individuals that can make this happen for us out there for sure. And then, of course, none of this happens without amazing volunteers like Team Mues. Their ability to kick in here. We didn't have the kayaks, on hand or a way to get them all the way there. They made that happen. We had 3. They brought in an additional 2, and that it put it all together where we needed it. So I'm looking to see if they're here, and they haven't reconnected yet. They might be having some trouble here. So this might be a good time. We're closing in on the 1 hour piece here. Folks, make sure to get out there, give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you know of an organization that's looking to try to get behind something that is impactful, here, let's bring them back in. All right, we got you guys here. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Yep,
I
we
can
can
hear
hear
you. Suddenly the earbuds are working, so now we can hear you really good. So
Perfect. There comes
There
the
we
video.
go.
Awesome. I was
Sorry
trying to say disconnect, reconnect.
Okay.
Then I told
you
you
were
to
like
steal.
frozen.
Yeah, I was telling you to steal third, and I was giving you all
I
kinds of
was like,
signals.
what's he saying? Yeah, I was laughing. And it just it froze your face, like kind of funny. So we got to giggling about it. So
Did you get a
I think we should-
screenshot?
I should have, but I was like, man, we should hang up on save this guy's life. No.
I got mine
No.
set up to a single key now, so every now and again when my guests, if their screen freezes in a real, really goofy looking face, I try to get a quick screenshot of it.
Yeah.
It just makes
I know how that you would
those
be.
new sponsorship deals come in a little easier that way.
That's right. That's right. No, I mean, I cannot reiterate how this made us feel emotionally, and just the satisfying feeling of actually, doing something that had purpose and meaning.
Absolutely.
And so we can't. It opens your eyes to a lot. It is something that we absolutely find, joy, and it's just super fulfilling for us, for sure. I mean, that family. I was holding hands with Melinda by 20 minutes in. I was just trying to drag her along with me, and I literally just chauffeured her by my hand and drove with my remote. So, But
I was telling my wife, one of the things that I loved the most is we weren't into this 5-10 minutes, and you guys were talking about kids and talking about life and a little bit about fishing, but then so many other things. You know, we always wonder. We've said this before. The entire family serves, man, and they need their time too out there. They need their escape
100%.
as much, you know, as the warriors, you know, the war fighters that we serve as well. So it was so cool. The next stage, folks at home, you're getting to see a full transparency here. The next stage for Team Mues and old Big Chicken here is that we should do we're going to do a meeting together. I'm going to disclose to you all of the monies and so forth, you know, how all this played out. And then we find a way to work in that local area to get these costs down even more so that we can do this. I mean, we should be, in my opinion, we should be doing this once a month at least, you know, going through. Red Willow and McCook has got the perfect venue with you guys being there. The summertime, our schedules tend to get a little easier to work with. I mean, springtime, fall time, things get crazy. But nevertheless, this is the priority over anything. So I would love to, you know, bring folks in from Colorado, get some local that's right there in the area. Let's get them, you know, let's get them out. You know, and so
I feel like that was just, for me, it's just more, I feel like we work harder when it's purposeful and driven in the right direction. I mean, I'm not to say that what I do isn't purposeful. It's just that it pays my bills. It just doesn't come with a purpose or a meaning. And I need to have, I feel like as we age, we have to have purpose and meaning, and we have to kind of go towards that goal. So
that karma bank, my wife reminds me every day, she takes care of the real bank. I take care of the karma bank for us. You know, that's our teamwork, how we do this, because without her, none of this stuff flows. And so, yeah, it's an awesome setup there. So
well, and we have to give you a pat on the back because you make this really easy. You're very good at your job, Gene. And you know, you made it easy. You made us comfortable. I mean, we honestly felt like we were kind of superstars. You treated us like we honestly were. You know, I think we take for granted the fact that we really have worked really hard to get where we are. And that we would really love to share this love and joy with as many people because it has brought us together with some of the most incredible people in our lives that we can't ever. Fishing has, we've always decided that for me, it was a faithful approach, honestly, just because I attached fishing with, you know, faith and, you know, becoming fishers of men and just kind of driving that whole core belief system for me is what's kind of continued, you know, us getting into areas like this because we knew we really need to give back. We always had, you know, the outgoing personalities and you know, we fish good, but we needed to also be able to give back to community. And this is going to work for us. This is, we don't really fit in because we fish all the time. So we might not be running the parade, but we would love to help this area and bring, you know, veterans or first responders out and to see some of the therapy that we actually use day by day. People don't really know that's what we're doing it for, but deep down in our heart, that is why we fish. So
I think
I would love to share
we've
that.
all found that, you know, in the love that we have, all of a sudden we realize, hey, without this, things are a little bit scatterbrained, but with this, things, you know, tend to fall in line. No, everything went off so amazingly well. We absolutely owe it to ourselves to do it again, and just refine it, get better. You know, and it's a service to those that donate to us, to make sure that we keep, you know, find ways to find some strategic partners in the area that would work with us. Because
and we'd love to, you know, we want to be able to bring our partners in there. I'm sorry. I want to bring my partners in this too. I'd like to share some of them, and you know, maybe some of our partners would be interested in, you know, helping out with, you know, this organization, especially where you're a 501c3, and this is going to be able. I mean, if you're a, you know, a big company that needs some of that tax break, at least give it to somebody that's going to use it. And I mean, Gene, we saw you absolutely put the money where it belonged immediately. I was paid before I even delivered your deliverables. So I mean, I felt bad. I left it on Dustin's shoulders. And when I seen that he had sent it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, you got to get that to Gene right away. And, you know, we enjoyed,
And to be
You
clear,
do
though,
so good at your job.
I want people to understand something, though, real quick. That was not for your volunteering. You guys
I know.
volunteered and provided all that equipment and baits out of your own donation.
I know.
You're
I
a
mean,
professional photographer, and your services, we desperately needed those. So the two
you
of
know
you
what? It
making
looks
sure that
so
we got
good.
those.
I promise you, it looks so
Yeah.
good. I felt like we actually captured Dustin. Dustin took equally as good photos as I did. I mean, and I told him, I'm like, if I want to be in this, you have to take a few pictures of us too. He
Well,
put the
you
rod
guys-
up. He quit helping, and he was able to, take good
And you
pictures
guys-
for us too.
And you guys did it for a fraction of what a professional photographer like yourselves would normally
right.
charge people. So that was that was huge. We were very happy to do that, and we were just lucky to have that as a service that we could do. When we talked to Jason and his family, are you guys good with us sharing those photos? And they were like, absolutely, let them fly
I
on
love
social
that.
media or anywhere, because it helps us get the message out and show people what we can do
That's right.
and what these experiences are going to be like. So I've got one that's a possibility of a combat vet and his dad. I'm thinking August time. I just don't know if that's a great. I mean, that's going to be some tough fish in there. I think maybe in August, maybe not. I don't know.
I think if you keep it to the evening, Gene, that you're like instead of doing a morning, go super early. Because the evening bite here is equally epic. I can promise you, I won my tournaments. I can't go in the morning, so I had to go in the evening. The evening bite is equally epic. Like if we did some of the more like all of the talking and stuff and the eating before, and then took the these anglers out maybe in the evening, you could utilize an evening, especially where it's. We can also go in the real, like, when it's dusk. I don't think
you can do like a morning thing. Like how Marty usually does is his guidings. He'll take them out. You'll go in the morning and you go and camp out underneath the tree, have some food, cook some camp stuff, things like that, s'mores, whatever. Get everybody their time, and then go back out for an evening bite, and then just load up at the end of the evening, and that's your day.
Well, but in our case this time, I thought that it went really smooth. Everybody kind of came at their own pace. Nobody was hustling anybody. They came a little bit later, and we actually had everything set up for them. It worked out really well.
It worked out perfect.
It really did.
So we'll get together on that. We'll figure this out. I think we've got, I think this August here, I think this is going to be a good time. I need to get out in front of King Supers and a few other places out here and start raising some extra funds, and we'll put this piece together and make sure we're in position to get that done. So,
heck yeah.
Well, I wish I could wait a minute. I might be able to. I had something made up here before the power turned off on me. Banners, hang on, I'm trying to do this on my phone.
You do so good. It does look awesome.
Other than the camera right at my nostrils here. Here it is. There you go, folks. I'll make sure go out, check out Team Mues Kayak Fishing. Follow these guys. It's awesome content that they share out there. Great information that they're going to give you on some awesome products they love and believe in and use every day. And if you just want to follow good people around, bam, there you go. That's the place to do
and
it.
we have a list of sponsors. We made sure we wrote them down this time. So
we have
before we head out, let's go ahead and go down those guys that are keeping you guys on the road.
Okay.
No, that's fine. We have Yak Attack products, Z-Pro lithium batteries keeping us powered out in the water. Rogue Gear Company, which I know you have some of the Rogue Gear equipment yourself, the phone tethers and pull straps and things like that. One Objective, they're the ones that have the trolling motor mounts and other
That's why
accessories.
you and I have our mounts. Yeah.
Yep. We have Bonafide kayaks. I know you're the new canoe, but we're Bonafide kayaks, line cutters. I use that a lot when we were changing lures on the family's lines and stuff. We had to cut them off really quick, simple, easy to use. We have Golitas grubs. Genuine guy, check him out. He has some great deals on some grubs if you need them.
Nice.
Wicked Weights, they're quality tungsten. There's all your tungsten weights. Wicked Weights has a great deal for you. Girls Fish Better, that's her line
That's
of
our rods.
fishing rods from her sponsor.
Those are just for women only.
Right, and he also has mine that are Power Core custom rods, and you can look him up. He's out of Florida. He makes some great rods. Really.
What's the name of the rod company?
Power Core Custom Rods.
And then for the women's side, it's girls.
Yep. And Girls Fish Better for the women's side.
Yep.
And they have their own line of women's fishing rods.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have American Tackle Company, which they do your fishing guides. You ever seen the microwave guides, the lights? They're epic. They change the way you can cast and the way the line goes through your eyelets. It's something you definitely have to have on your rods.
For sure.
He's part of Rock Forge. And
that's a whole something new. I'll talk to you about Rock Forge. It's a whole different platform that's out there. We might do some work. We'll see how, we're going to try to network some of these places.
Sure.
Because I would love to have some of these companies come in, and man, I think they could really help out your organization, especially, I don't see why not. They're very big supporters of us, and anything that we love, they're really big supporters of. So hopefully we can, exchange and do some networking here and help you guys out as much as we can. I mean, why not?
Yep.
Definitely a really good cause.
Yep. And the last thing we have, angler button. That's what you.
That's what we have on the hats.
That's what we have on our hats. It tells you what the barometric pressure is when you catch a fish. It'll mark the location, barometric pressure, temperature. You can hook it up to like a Lowrance, and it'll tell you what the water temperature is. So you know when you catch your fish, what exact conditions you were. So if you have the exact same conditions, you can go out and probably catch fish.
And our sponsorships are all over the place. We have some that pay us money. We have some that give discounts. But we have a solid bunch of people here that truly believe in what we do. They know we kind of try to give back. So we owe it to, we wouldn't be where we are today without the sponsors that we have, because they cheer us on. I mean, we really get a lot of traction and reaction from people because we try to do really hard work. So.
Absolutely. Well, and it's evident in your social media presence. It's evident when you get a chance to meet you guys one-on-one. I said this before, you're professionals. There's no question about it. And I noticed that immediately. I respected that. That was, from the night that you, on that first tournament there, when I got a chance to meet you guys, it's like, yeah, these are the folks that we need to, you hang out with good people and good things happen. I'm a firm believer.
I believe that 100%. Me too. And you know what, Gene? I think I had you when I tried to give that grandpa the steak. As soon as I think you loved me that day. As soon as I gave him the airplane steak. I mean, you have to tell him the quick story before we wrap this all up, because that made your day. I think Gene loved the Jen immediately when the first night we went out. The family was unable to attend the very first night. They couldn't get in until late. So Gene opted, and we all opted to eat together. We could get to know each other, kind of learn some things about each other, because to be honest, we didn't really know Gene from anywhere, like just the tournament fishing. So
the award ceremony, that was the only time.
Yeah, I mean, and it just so happens that there were, I don't know, those men were probably 80 years old, maybe older. I'm not really sure. They were probably, I mean, we had 5 gentlemen to the left and their wives and all of their women, like 6 or 8 of the women, just a table behind them. But I had ordered a steak and potatoes. You ordered some chicken parm. I'm not really sure what that was. Whatever, garden chicken. It was good. And I don't know what it was. And maybe the old grandpas were watching me eat my steak. They were like lions over there watching me eat my steak. And so one of the gentlemen said, I'm just waiting for you to give me a bite of your steak. And I looked over, the grandpa said that to me, and I loved it. I cut him a piece off. I'm like, okay, but you gotta eat it.
You didn't miss a beat. That was the part that just was phenomenal. It's like you were waiting for him to say something.
I knew he would.
You were ready for him. The moment he said it, you said, "You sure you can have a bite? I'll even airplane it right in there for you." he stopped.
I was actually going to wait for him to open his mouth. I thought he was going to take it. I really did. You saw his wife and all. I saw the old women back there.
He thought he had them. Yeah.
I believe his name was Rex, and Rex was a cattleman, so he probably had way more steaks than we've had in our lives. But Rex was into the Jen steak, and I'm not sure if they didn't feed Rex or if he was watching us because he was interested in our story or what. But I was prepared to fully give Rex the best airplane bite of steak that his life had ever seen. And I thought Gene was laying
laughing so hard his face
Oh, yeah.
was like in his arm because
Oh,
he
yeah.
couldn't believe I said that to that gentleman.
It was just the quick speed. You didn't even have to think about it. Like, you were ready for it. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. We got quick wit. We're fast on our feet here. We're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
We're gonna get
That's
this done.
right.
But
He's like, Gene was like, this is our kind. We are just fine.
you know. So folks at home, absolutely follow Team Mues Kayak Fishing there. Like I said, this is how we get things done, like-minded people working together. That's how we can extend the healing. That's how we can make these type of things go together, because there's no way we could have done what we did, you know, single-handedly here. It took team effort to bring that all together into something that was awesome. Make sure also follow the Romans Warrior Foundation. Check out that Camo to College that we talked about at the start of the podcast here. These are organizations doing amazing things out there, and we absolutely love them and are looking forward to working with them. You guys, we are going to do this again. We'll figure it all out. We'll talk offside here. We'll come up with some ideas, and I'm sure possibly here, I'm thinking maybe August would be another good time that we can throw this down, and we'll just we'll rewind this, and this time we'll do it with just a couple folks. Won't need kayaks this time. I'll have all the kayaks we need, and we'll be set and good to go, and we'll get her done.
Sounds good.
Sounds
We're
great.
in. Totally in.
You guys make sure and let us know also if there's anything we can ever do on the podcast. When you got cool news coming up here, whatever, keep us in the loop. Use if we bring you in for 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to make a special announcement, let's do it, man. That's what we're here for.
You're in
All right.
Big Chicken.
That's right. All right, folks. Appreciate you following along. Make sure you hit that subscribe. The likes and the follows are huge. As always, tight lines and be safe.
Peace out.